Welcome to the Legalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Sager, founder and CEO of Legalpreneur Inc. As a serial entrepreneur and someone that works exclusively with small business owners legally protecting their business, I'm dedicated to covering common legal issues faced by business owners, providing you with the business knowledge you need to catapult your business's growth and showing you just how some of the world's most elite entrepreneurs have handled these legal and business issues themselves. In true attorney fashion, the information in this episode is not legal advice. This is for informational purposes only, and you should always consult with your attorney before implementing any of the information in the show. Hello there, and welcome back. I am so excited to have my newly found good friend, I already want to call her, Veronica Romney. She is a dream team architect and creator of the Rainmaker Residency. I met Veronica just a couple of months ago, but we just vibed so well, and I already call her a good friend. So Veronica, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited for the listeners to hear from you.
Oh, I'm honored that you asked me to be on your podcast. So thank you for having me.
I love it. Okay, well, let's get into it, please. Tell everybody how you got to where you are today. Don't hold back, brag, because I want them to know who we are graced with in our presence today.
Sure. So, hi guys, I'm Veronica Romney. Nice to meet you. I call myself a dream team architect, not because I'm that clever. In fact, I'm not that good at naming, ironically, as much as I pride myself in being a marketer. It was a former employee of mine when I was chief of staff at Boss Babe that tokened and called me a dream team architect. She's like, I was a part of the dream team that you created for us, Veronica, and I've never experienced anything like it before. And then I was just clever enough to go to GoDaddy and oh, it's available, right? So that's where that comes from. But I've been in the online marketing game for over 15 years. I've proud marketer all the way through. Have had many roles, director of, chief of, have worked with some very big names in the industry, mostly online personalities that sell their own education, knowledge, things like that. But what I find to be a huge gap or problem is that what got you to your point of success isn't what's going to sustain you or take you to the next level. And so a lot of people can build a business alone, but they can't scale it on their own. And that's kind of where I come in, because my zone of genius is actually building out marketing-centric organizations. I'm really good at it, and I pride myself in it. And I love people managing, which is, I know, not the norm, but I love it. And I like to inspire dreamers, empower leaders. And now I create some elite marketing rainmakers, which is basically marketing directors, marketing managers, and leaders for CEOs. So they don't have to be it for themselves.
I love that. And so tell me more about what goes into creating these roles, as far as what are you actually teaching them, or what goes into that?
Into making a marketing rainmaker?
Yes.
Okay, so let's define what that means, because it's not the same thing as a marketing specialist or an assistant. I'm not making marketing doers. There's plenty of skills and courses and certifications that you can take right now that I would even recommend that you could take that can help you create a PPC manager, a social media manager, a social seller. That's not what a rainmaker is. A rainmaker is the mother hen. It's the one that actually manages the doers. It's the one that holds your vendors accountable, the one that strategically thinks about how to grow a list of prospects and convert them, the one that you can lean on for revenue generation so that you don't have to. They're leaders. These are mid-tier leaders where they come in and they sandwich between the CEO, the founder, and all of the doers and the executioners, right? That's what a rainmaker is. And so I'm teaching them how to be a leader. I'm teaching them, actually, in fact, let's be really clear what I do. I teach both of you. And when I say both of you, I mean the CEO who's listening to this podcast. I have to teach you how to let go of that job.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, you are that. You are the CMO and the CEO. You're the one that had the social media presence that got you to where you are. You're the one that had the marketing savviness. You learned about funnels and webinars, and you learned about all of that stuff to get to where you're at. And so you're actually the one doing majority of the marketing for the company. And I have to teach you to let it go, like Elsa style, Frozen style. And it's going to create feelings, and it's going to be difficult. And then on top of that, I have to teach somebody else on your team how to receive that shedding, receive that responsibility without triggering you, without competing with you, while honoring you and not dismissing your crazy ideas that you get 2 or 3 in the morning, or when you go to a mastermind, you come home, you're like, we're doing all this stuff. Like, it's a really interesting dynamic, but it is so critical for that next level of growth. And unfortunately, in the industry, it is the churn and burn. There's a lot of marketing leaders. If you can even find a unicorn like that was willing to help you make millions versus millions themselves, like that's already one thing. But then you lose them, you burn them, they're turned over at such a bad rate. So that's where I come in and help you guys bridge that really critical relationship.
I love that. I'm dying laughing because last week I was at my mastermind I told you with Chris Harder,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Kayla is always like, I'm always excited for you to go, but I'm also scared because you just
Uh-huh.
like turn things upside
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
down.
Yep.
And every single time we do that, and she's just home waiting. She's like, okay, I'm ready. What's
I
next?
know.
What do we do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when I worked at Boss Babe, Natalie and Danielle, they had made it to the top 10 affiliates for Tony and Dean's big affiliate launch. And so they invite these, the top 10 affiliates to like Palm Springs or to the Fiji resort that Tony owns. And they sat Natalie and Danielle front row. And I was like, oh, here we go. I already knew. So I was like, stand by next to my Voxer. I'm like, it's coming. It's coming. And like, lo and behold, like, and the girls told me like, no, don't worry, we're not going to get influenced. Like, it's no, like we know we're staying true to the path. We know what we're doing this year. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like within hours, I started getting blown up on Vox. Are you watching this? Sending me screenshots. We got to do this. I'm like, I know. So I know what it is to receive that. But that's the thing about being that rainmaker, is that you can't bring an umbrella to the brainstorm. Like that's a Ted Lasso quote that I love so much, but it's true. Like, you are the visionary is surrounded by ideation and great ideas everywhere they go, listening to a podcast, reading a book, going to a mastermind, hanging out with their colleagues, like. And so you have to be, as a leader, you have to be this middle person where you have to like be the buffer so that your doers don't get overwhelmed. You yourself have to have a really high pressure tolerance to receive it, and then help your CEO remind them this is doable, or this is worthy of our pursuit, and this is not. And you have to be that sounding board without like kind of poo-pooing on their dreams, because nobody likes that person either.
Yeah, and I'm curious. So let's say somebody listening, they are probably that solopreneur. Maybe they have one person on their team, more of like an assistant, a VA, helping them integrate. What from there would you say is the dream team? So they're, like you said, the CMO, the CEO, and they know they need to create this team, but they don't even know like exactly what these positions should be. What is your vision, and what do you think is really that dream team from there?
Well, okay. So I talk about startup companies and scale up companies, but it's like the newbie solopreneur CEO is like where you're everything. Like you are Alexa from the customer service inbox. Like you pretend to be your own executive assistant. You're your own social media manager. Like you're doing all of the things. And then you start to outgrow that, because okay, now we have a little bit of cash in the bank. I don't want to do all of this stuff. Maybe I should bring in an admin. Maybe I should bring in a part-timer. Maybe I should have somebody that can help me with my ads. So then you start to relinquish and start to delegate out to doers, right? People that can execute tasks, right? And they can either be outside of the walls of the company as a vendor, contractor, part-timer, intern, or there's somebody like, you know what, I'm going to actually hire somebody on the inside. They live next to me. I know them. Usually it's a contact, a friend, or even like I see a lot of siblings. I see a lot of cousins. I see a lot of family that starts to come in, right? That's very, very common if it's not the spouse or the partner that's also roped in, right? Then at that point, my beautiful CEO is like, holy crap, I hate people management, because you went from like managing yourself and being free to do whatever you want, whenever you want, to now like being responsible for all these hands that are like looking to you to make all the decisions. And so decision fatigue sets in. You're like, I'm tired of being the only firefighter in this company. Shoot, right? So that's where, and now we have more money in the bank. So that's where the need for leadership comes in. This is where we want to have other people to manage individual departments or teams. That's where you start putting lanes to the highway, because before that point, it's just a whole bunch of bumper carting. So like it's like the evolution of the org chart. Like it evolves. So if I'm talking to a solopreneur, like mission critical is just trying to surround yourself with A players to help you do things that you shouldn't be doing, so you can be focusing on sales and focusing on talking about your company and your mission and your vision as much as possible. Once you start having like a really decent influx of traffic and activity and momentum, then you want somebody inside the company to help you like leverage that beyond yourself.
Okay. And let's talk about your specific Rainmaker residency. I want to hear about this because I know this is something that I'm also, I will say, struggling with. I was going to say, I don't want to say struggling, but I will own that. We are struggling, just really trying to figure out what is our next critical position. So I want to hear more about this Rainmaker residency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Rainmaker Residency, it's difficult to even describe because it's like it's not an apples to apple comparison to maybe anything else that you've seen in the marketplace. So affectionately, what I say, I'm like, imagine an MBA made love to a mastermind, and then they popped out 2 in-person retreats, and that is the family that is this product. Because it's all of it. So like I have to teach the CEO and the Rainmaker through my curriculum. It's not a certification. It's like an MBA curriculum of like how to let go and take on. Like they have to learn how to make this work. And there's 5 big pillars where there's the most friction. It's the marketing leader and what that actually means, the marketing team and how to like manage that so the CEO doesn't have to and let go, the marketing content factory, because the visionary is the one that's producing the majority of the content because they're the face or the spokesperson, but then you need the Rainmaker to like actually like protect you so you're not fatigued out. The marketing launch, which is the revenue generating activities and events, and then the roadmap, which is like about 12 months of marketing. So you're not going quarter to quarter, month to month. Like, so there's 5 big moments in this relationship that I need to help you navigate in order for this relationship to work. So that's the MBA side of it, right? And then you have the mastermind level support because there's a whole bunch of internal dialogue that's going on. Imposter syndrome. I don't know if I can do this. They made me mad. They said something I didn't like. And I'm not saying that they're all problem filled relationships, but in working with another person, I love my husband, but there's days I don't like him,
Yeah.
right? So in any dynamic or relationship between 2 independent thinkers, you're going to have these moments. And that just means that the CEO has to level up. And that means that the Rainmaker has to get out of their own way. Like there's these developmental points. So we have mastermind level support. We have coaches just for one. We have coaches just for another. We have curated moments to bring you both together. And then the in-person events is like, there's nothing better than being in the room with the people who are on the same path as you. Like it's not just you that's struggling. It's everybody else in the room who also is struggling and is trying to figure this out. And you guys are all helping each other out. And what I didn't realize is that CEOs congregate all the freaking time. All the books are written for them. All the masterminds are done for them. Like you just came back from an event yourself and it's amazing. Rainmakers are often completely isolated and never taken out of the house. So when I do these events and they come and they're the star of the show and it's them and their peers, these people that get what it is to be them, I cannot tell you the air, the oxygen that it gives to them. And they look at me like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm like, no, you're not crazy. This is just the nature of the beast, right? So like bringing it all together in these events is where like you really see just how, not that everybody's not a unique snowflake, but you realize that your struggles aren't unique and it gives you enormous peace of mind to know that you're doing this with other people who are in the same path as you.
Yeah, that's so true. Because there's I mean, I've mentioned Kayla to you,
Mm-hmm.
and so funny that you mentioned like it's often like neighbors or cousins. She's my best
Mm-hmm.
friend,
What'd
and
I
like
say?
real life best friend. And so she's been with me 2.5 years now. But I've been wanting to get her involved in more events. I'm like, hey, so Austin Startup Week is in a month, and I'm making her come to that because
Yeah.
I want her more involved with events and mingling with our clients, our customers, instead of just behind the computer mingling as customer service. And it's so funny, she was at obviously, she was at the event that we hosted, and so many people were just as excited to see her as they
Mm-hmm.
were me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, see, you need it. You have to get out
Mm-hmm.
more. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear more about your role stepping into being your own CEO and founder.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Mm-hmm.
is your first business or
No.
no? No. Okay. So
Mm-mm.
you were working for Boss Bay, but you've had your own thing before.
Yeah, yes, I left corporate 2017, but before I left corporate, I had like a number of side gigs, side
Yeah.
hustles. I used to sell like bulk candy. I had an e-commerce. I had like 3 or 4 e-commerce websites that I would
Oh,
sell bulk
nice.
candy, lawn art decor, food storage.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like when you have marketing skill, when you know how to do PPC and SEO and link building, like you're going to do it for yourself and it's going to take you to Hawaii once in a while, right? Like, so I would do a lot of that. And then we started a marketing agency while I was still working my corporate job because at the time the CEO hated remote workers and I was remote and I was like, well, I need a plan B. So we started this agency and it got to about $700,000 a month in yearly revenue before I'm like, I can't do both. I was like full-time corporate job, traveling to see my staff once a month, and then also running this, nearing $1 million agency. So it was like Sophie's choice. I had to decide. So I ended up leaving corporate forever, 2017, started my agency and sold it in 2019.
Nice.
Then I went all in on speaking and being a road warrior and getting huge keynote fees. And that's how I became a Tony Robbins speaker and Dean Graziosi speaker for their program. And then the pandemic happened. And it was in the pandemic and all my stages were gone where I had the opportunity to like work for Pete Vargas for a hot second. Then I became the chief of staff at Boss Bay for a hot second. But then, damn it, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like that, the Moana call, like the ocean called me. Like, so I worked at Boss Bay for almost 9 months ish. I want to say 10-ish months. And I was not in, how about this? I was not in integrity with myself because even though I'm so capable of like, and it's still, by the way, it's still very tempting to like, let me be your integrator. Let me just run the hell of your company. Like, I love it, but I have my own visions. I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning with crazy ideas. There's that part of me too. So when I left Boss Babe, I'm like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. Why am I fighting myself? But here's the irony. I have been fighting myself for years. The CEO part of me, that visionary part of me with the Rainmaker integrator part of me, because I like both sides. I like being behind the curtain. No one knows who I am. And I'm like the Wizard of Oz. I'm doing all the cool stuff, I'm running all the, managing all the chicks and love it. And then there's the part of me that wants to get on stage in my Spanx and like rock it, like rock the stage,
Yes.
And so I've been in conflict with myself, for years. And then here's the irony. This is how kind of God works in my life. He's like, because you know what it is to be both, you're going to create a program that serves 2 people, not 1. And that's where the Rainmaker Residency, like literally it's like my life's work. All of my internal strife has come to fruition because how hard is it to build a program, not for just the CEO, but for the internal staff member. And I've been qualified for this moment. I feel that.
That gave me chills. Like finally, like it comes together. And I know that moment must be, I know it's just beautiful because it's like, and it's like a load. It's like this is what it is. Like I've been, we're searching and searching. And then finally it's like, okay.
Yeah, no, I've landed. I'm at home.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So one thing I do want to touch on with these businesses that you've had, and now the business is legal considerations. So when you first started the marketing agency, did you even think about legal? And because I've heard from, so funny enough, people that do come from corporate, a lot of them, they're like, I know because in my corporate job, they're always like legal. We have to run it by legal. And so going to entrepreneurship, they already know like, okay, I have to take care of the legal stuff.
100%.
And so it's same experience, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I coming from corporate America and going, especially when I worked at ancestry.com, it was privately held, we went public. So seeing all these, even the transitions between corporations from one entity or one, being to another, I'm very aware of the legalities, signing my own contracts, negotiating my own things. When I was a product owner over like 7 different marketing products as a director at Entrada, like I had to work with legal to make sure everything we were doing was compliant. Oh yeah. So I have always had an appreciation for the law. So when I started my company, it was a lawyer who registered my LLC and, the lawyer who's doing my trademarks. And when I was doing my agency and putting people on W-2s versus 1099 versus internships, unpaid internships for exchange of class credit, I was very aware of, hey, be really careful how I legally navigate this. And yeah, oh no, I couldn't preach it more than I do today. I'm very conscious of it. I treat the law. This is what I told my lawyer. Her name is Brittany Rattel. She's
I know her. She's awesome.
Amazing. This is where I tell Brittany, I'm like, I want to treat every legal thing that we ever make as if we all get amnesia tomorrow. So like whatever needs to be in this, that we both lose our memory tomorrow needs to be in here because not that I don't believe in like you can't do a business on a handshake, but when you're talking about the law, I just want to make sure that there's no, oh, damn it, we should have put this in there. I hate those moments. So that's how I approach it.
Amazing. And I'm curious, when you went to sell your agency, did you talk about that? Did you go to a broker? Did somebody approach you about buying it? I would love to hear about that because a lot of us here, like, we're building and building, and we should be looking at the end of eventually selling.
Yeah, agency sales is a beast. Because to me, it's like there's two big buyer types from an agency standpoint. There's the buyer who just is interested in your accounts. So normally it's another marketing agency who's just going to absorb either your staff or not even the staff, but they're definitely going to take over your contracts. Like they're excited about expansion of their portfolio, taking from your portfolio. So they absorb you. So that was one scenario. The other scenario is where they're going to add marketing services or add this agency to expand the services or the products they already have. So I was approached in the first year of our agency by a local business owner who had a credit card processing company. So he was servicing small businesses doing their credit card processing, which is awesome reoccurring revenue. And he wanted to offer reoccurring marketing services revenue. So he wanted to be like a one-stop shop for his small business owners. But he's like, I know nothing about digital marketing. I'm going to absorb an agency and have that be the arm of the business. The killer with that deal, he was courting us for years. The killer with that was like, I had to go with the deal. So he wanted me to come in and like manage that whole division and that arm. And I wasn't going to be bought. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So, but he courted us for years and years and years. And he sent a letter of intent. We were in like all that arena. And I just didn't feel good about it. So I actually ended up approaching other agencies because I was like, I could feel like I was done, but I didn't want to do it with him. So I went to agencies and like, anybody want to buy me? And they're like, 5 people raised their hand. And that's how it kind of went down.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
I know selling is never easy. Same as you. After, I think it was January 2020, I had started my firm in mid 2018. And after like a full year of people like finding out who I was, I had like bigger firms approaching me. And I literally had the conversations. I'm like, I can't be bought. Like, you literally cannot pay me enough.
Correct.
And then I finally started getting the ideas like, oh, maybe I could sell my firm and do something else. And so that's really why I did start Legalpreneur, because I knew, okay, eventually I'm not going to be a practicing attorney. But it's taken me 2.5 years to actually sell my firm, but I am in the middle of closing the deal to actually sell it and no longer be a practicing attorney, which is really exciting. Yeah, I can't believe it, but it's really cool to know that, hey, somebody's buying what I'm selling, and not just like products or services, but a whole business. So kudos to you for that, because I know.
Well, kudos to you. What do you, kudos to me? Kudos to us.
Kudos
Girl
to
power.
Us. Yes. Yeah, super exciting. So one other thing that I want to touch on is actual sales teams or salespeople. Just like a very broad, I know you could probably like deep dive into this, but for people that are solopreneurs or have like a very small team that are like, oh, I need a salesperson, I need a sales team. Like what's the point, do you think, that you should actually bring somebody? And I know there's a lot that goes into this, but very high level.
No, I can give you an answer.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So 2 things. Number one, I think everybody runs to getting a salesperson because they themselves, literally word for word, I hate sales. I hate sales. I don't want to do it. I'm going to give it to somebody else. There's a couple problems with this. If you hate doing something, how the hell are you going to train somebody else to love it? Because even though you're not doing the thing, you're still managing the outcome of the thing that someone else is doing for you. And that's where, from a team perspective, that's where there's a lot of conflict, because you're not supporting the asset that you hope can help you with your pain. So I think a lot of people run to get social media managers and sales reps really fast because it solves their immediate problem, and they throw a person at a problem. And I'm very anti that. Like, you don't throw people at problems. We're not throwing babies at cars. So there's that. Now, when to bring in a sales rep isn't because you hate it. You bring in a sales rep when you have steady flow of leads. Unless you're hiring a hunter, but most salespeople are not hunters. They're usually like closers, farmers, and then that's a lot of lingo, but they're used to being fed. So if you're going to pick somebody off the street who's used to being fed and you are not providing a constant stream of leads yourself through your own marketing efforts, they're going to leave you. Or you're going to be really mad that they're not going to help you. And I've made this mistake plenty of times. So I like bringing on and developing salespeople when the demand is already there and I'm feeding mouths as my first sales attempt versus attempting to have a hunter do all of the trafficking for me. That's where I see the most misalignment.
Okay, that makes so much sense. I we touched briefly, but I was going to build out a sales team, and I've never had a sales team. Even in the law firm, when I had those consistent flows, I've just like picked up little sales things here and there. But I think everybody needs, no matter where they are in their business, start learning the ins and outs of not even just sales. Like we're all salespeople at the end of the day if we're business owners, but really knowing tactical things about closing or hunting, because there's so like I didn't, up until probably a year ago, I didn't even know what a closer was. I didn't know, like, what does prospecting mean. I was doing it, but I didn't really know like the technical terms. And I knew, okay, I want to be here, I want to sell for $1 billion. I have like I have to learn all these things. So I think no matter where you are in business, of course, never stop learning, but sales in particular, always up there.
Yeah, and I think again, sales is like people feel like that's an icky word. I view it as serving. You're serving someone by not selling them. Okay, there's that. Yeah, you're like Veronica. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I do think what makes me sad about when people outsource their social media or outsource their sales too soon is because what you're basically doing is you're outsourcing the validation on your messaging, right? So I think like a marketer and like even in speaker training, what they teach speakers to do is like when you're when you're speaking and presenting, you actually put the camera not on yourself on stage and how awesome you look, but you actually put the camera on the audience because what you really want to understand is where the audience is like nodding their head, where they're taking notes in their notebooks and like writing ferociously, when they're physically like almost like reaching out to you because they're resonating with what you're saying. That's what you as a CEO, as a solopreneur for sure need to have a handle on. What are you saying that is resonating and getting a response? If you distance yourself from the validating people and hand that off to a salesperson, they don't look at it that way. And that's where you're like leaving the most critical part of your business to someone else's hands that I think is irresponsible. I wouldn't advise it. So that's why like marketing and sales is brother and sister. Like they come from the same family. So in sales, you would say, "Oh, I'm prospecting," and marketing, you'd be like, "I'm doing relationship marketing." It's the same thing, So if sales makes you feel yucky, then just tell yourself that you're doing relationship marketing, and it will feel better.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, before I let you go, I ask the same question to everybody on the show, and that is, what is your number one business tip? Doesn't have to be related to sales or marketing or creating a team. Just if somebody came up to you off the street and was like, Veronica, please, what is your number one business tip?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you, honest to goodness, business is you. So as soon as this, and this took me a while, you guys, so I'm saying this because it took me a hot second. The business is you. So if you're not okay, guess what? Your business is not okay. If you're scared, if you got scarcity mindset, if you got in a big fight with your spouse, guess what? Your business is going to suffer. Like it's directly correlated. So I know people, that's why like entrepreneurs get into like all that woo woo stuff, but like legitimately it's because the better that you are, the healthier you are as a person, the healthier your business will also be. And the sooner you realize that and you prioritize not just your marketing efforts or your sales efforts, but your self efforts, the better off your business will be.
Yes, and that is probably the number one thing I've learned in the past
Yep.
2 years. The healthier you are, the
Mm-hmm.
healthier your business is.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah. Well, Veronica, thank you. Please, please, please tell the audience where they can find out more about you, where can they follow along, all the things.
Sure. Yeah, on social media, I'm everywhere just as V Romney. But if you want to learn more about the Rainmaker Residency, you can literally go to the rainmakerresidency.com.
I love it. And we'll have it all in the show notes. Veronica, thank you so, so much. And you guys make sure, shout us out on Instagram, both of us, and we'll see you next time. Here at Legalpreneur, we're committed to providing a supportive legal community for all business owners. I know how scary the legal stuff can be. If you found this information helpful, I would be so grateful if you could share it with a fellow business owner. And quite frankly, it doesn't cost anything to rate, review, or subscribe to the show. Your support helps me reach more listeners, which allows me to support more business owners in their entrepreneurial journey. Have any questions or comments about the show? Feel free to drop me a line on Instagram. I promise I read all of the messages and comments. And if you want to be a guest on the show or know someone that would make a great guest, simply fill out our application form and a team member will reach out if we think it's a good fit. I'll see you in the next episode.